You are contagious, engage and inspire through words, emotions, and gestures. Did you know that the most influential speakers use nearly 500 hand gestures in just 18 minutes? And that emotions, like fear and excitement, are contagious without a single word? Whether through our gestures, tone, or even the emotions we share, we hold the power to deeply influence those around us. Want to unlock that power? Welcome to The Power of Influence, an audiobook that will change how you connect with others. Whether you're looking to improve your public speaking, enhance your personal relationships, or make an impact in any interaction, this audiobook provides a roadmap to mastering nonverbal cues, asking the right questions, and managing emotional contagion. Learn how you can use gestures, words, and emotions to become more engaging and memorable in every conversation. Audiobook Summary. In this audiobook, we dive deep into the science behind nonverbal communication, focusing on how hand gestures build trust and convey expertise. Emotional contagion, how we unintentionally share emotions and how that impacts those around us. The power of asking strategic questions to spark positive emotions and make conversations more enjoyable. What you'll learn. How to use hand gestures effectively to enhance communication and build trust. The science behind emotional contagion and how to influence others' emotions in a positive way. Key verbal strategies to engage others and stimulate positive feelings in conversations. Practical tips on making interactions more meaningful and memorable by asking the right questions. By the end of this audiobook, you'll have actionable tools to elevate your influence in personal and professional interactions. Focus Point 1: The science behind nonverbal communication and the power of hand gestures. Nonverbal communication is a powerful tool in human interaction. Studies have shown that more than 60% of communication happens without words, making our gestures, facial expressions, and posture critical in how we convey meaning and influence others. One of the most important components of nonverbal communication is hand gestures. Hand gestures serve as an extension of our verbal language. They help clarify our speech, making it easier for others to grasp complex ideas. A famous study from the University of Chicago demonstrated that speakers who use hand gestures are perceived as more persuasive and credible. Their ideas tend to be understood more clearly, and they are seen as more competent and trustworthy. One reason for this is that gestures engage the brain in a different way than speech alone. When we gesture, we activate regions of the brain linked to motor activity, which supports verbal processing and deepens comprehension. Speakers who are considered highly influential, like those on platforms such as TED Talks, use an average of 465 hand gestures in just 18 minutes. This adds a visual component to their verbal message, creating a dynamic and memorable interaction. Renowned social psychologist Amy Cuddy highlights that body language, including hand gestures, not only affects how others perceive us but also how we perceive ourselves. By using expansive gestures, we signal confidence to our audience, which in turn boosts our self-assurance and can reduce stress. The connection between hand gestures and trust is rooted in evolutionary psychology. For centuries, open and visible hands have been associated with safety and transparency. People who use open hand gestures, such as spreading their palms while speaking, signal that they have nothing to hide. This openness promotes trust in the listener, making them more likely to engage with the speaker's message. Furthermore, renowned communication theorist Albert Mehrabian developed the 7-38-55 rule, which suggests that 55% of the impact of communication comes from body language, including gestures, 38% from tone of voice, and only 7% from the actual words spoken. This emphasizes how critical nonverbal signals are in shaping how our messages are received. Consider the case of leaders or teachers who rely heavily on words but neglect nonverbal cues. Their messages may lack the dynamism and emotional connection needed to inspire. In contrast, effective communicators weave hand gestures into their speech to reinforce key points, making their message not just heard but felt. Neuroscientific research also supports the notion that hand gestures enhance learning. When gestures accompany speech, listeners are more likely to remember the information. This is known as dual coding, where the brain processes verbal and nonverbal input together, creating stronger memory associations. Recommendations: use purposeful hand gestures. Ensure your gestures align with and reinforce your words. Open gestures convey honesty, while precise movements help to emphasize important points. Practice expansive, confident gestures. Avoid keeping your hands in your pockets or folded in front of you. Confident gestures not only project assurance but also increase your own sense of confidence. Be mindful of cultural differences. While hand gestures are powerful universally, their meanings can vary across cultures. Adapt your nonverbal communication to suit your audience. Match gestures with tone. Synchronize your hand movements with the emotional tone of your speech to create harmony between verbal and nonverbal communication. Focus point 2, Emotional Contagion, how we share and influence emotions without words. Emotions are highly contagious. Whether in a conversation with a friend or in a crowded room, we continuously and unconsciously pick up on the emotional states of those around us. This phenomenon, known as emotional contagion, occurs when one person's emotions trigger similar feelings in others. This nonverbal transfer of emotions is a fundamental aspect of human interaction and plays a crucial role in shaping our social experiences. Psychologists have long studied how emotions spread from person to person, and one of the most widely accepted theories is that of mirror neurons. These specialized neurons in our brain fire not only when we experience an emotion or perform an action but also when we observe someone else doing the same. When you see someone smiling, for instance, your mirror neurons encourage you to smile as well, creating a sense of shared joy or warmth. This mirroring behavior is at the heart of emotional contagion. Experiments have demonstrated that even subtle cues, such as facial expressions or body posture, can spread emotions. In a famous study by researchers at the University of Cologne, participants who were exposed to the sweat of people experiencing fear, such as those about to skydive, showed increased levels of anxiety themselves, even without consciously recognizing the source. This finding underscores how physical responses to emotion can be transferred nonverbally, influencing the emotional states of others. Similarly, research has found that happiness, too, is contagious. A landmark study conducted by Harvard University and the University of California, San Diego, found that happiness spreads through social networks. If someone in your close circle is happy, it increases your chances of becoming happier by up to 25%. The same ripple effect happens with negative emotions like anger or sadness, underscoring the importance of being mindful of the emotional energy we project. Emotional contagion has profound implications in various settings, from leadership and teaching to everyday interactions. A leader who is consistently upbeat and positive can elevate the mood of their team, boosting morale and productivity. Conversely, a leader who expresses frustration or negativity can spread those feelings throughout the group, decreasing overall performance. In education, teachers who maintain enthusiasm and passion can inspire their students to become more engaged, while disengaged or stressed teachers may inadvertently pass on those feelings, dampening the learning experience. Philosophers and spiritual leaders throughout history have recognized the power of emotional exchange. The Dalai Lama once said, "The more we care for the happiness of others, the greater our own sense of well-being becomes." This principle taps into the reality that when we spread positive emotions, not only do we affect those around us, but we also enhance our own emotional state. The key to harnessing emotional contagion is awareness. By recognizing that our emotions can influence others, we gain the power to intentionally shape the atmosphere of our interactions. This is especially important in environments where emotions run high, such as the workplace, classrooms, or family gatherings. Being mindful of the energy we project can help cultivate more positive, constructive exchanges. In addition to facial expressions and body language, the tone of voice is a critical element in transmitting emotions. Research from Yale University revealed that people are particularly sensitive to the emotional tone of voices. A warm, enthusiastic tone can lift the spirits of listeners, while a flat or irritated tone can quickly drag them down. This highlights the need for not only choosing our words carefully but also paying attention to how we say them. In practical terms, this means that we have the capacity to influence the emotional landscape of any interaction. Whether it's encouraging someone who feels down or rallying enthusiasm in a team, our emotional state acts as a catalyst for how others feel and behave. Understanding emotional contagion also allows us to protect ourselves from negative influences by consciously avoiding environments or individuals who tend to drain our energy or spread negativity. Recommendations: be mindful of your emotional state. Your emotions are likely to influence those around you. Take a moment to check in with yourself before entering important conversations or meetings. Use positive emotions strategically. Project joy, enthusiasm, and optimism to create an uplifting environment. A smile or an encouraging word can have a ripple effect that brightens the mood of others. Regulate negative emotions. If you're feeling stressed or upset, take steps to manage those feelings before interacting with others to prevent spreading negativity. Pay attention to tone. Your tone of voice can carry more emotional weight than the words themselves. Keep your tone warm and engaging to foster positive connections. Surround yourself with positive influences. Just as you influence others, you're also influenced by the emotions of those around you. Choose relationships and environments that contribute to your well-being. Focus point 3: the power of asking the right questions to spark positive emotions in conversations. The way we interact with others shapes the quality of our relationships, and one of the most impactful tools in fostering connection is the art of asking the right questions. Questions are not merely a method of gathering information, they can stimulate emotions, deepen engagement, and build rapport. When used effectively, questions can make conversations more enjoyable, memorable, and meaningful by triggering positive emotional responses. Research in the field of neuroscience has revealed that asking questions that focus on positive experiences or future possibilities activates the brain's reward system. Specifically, it triggers the release of dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with feelings of pleasure and motivation. For example, asking someone, "What are you excited about?" prompts them to reflect on future goals or dreams, stimulating positive emotions. This question not only makes the conversation more enjoyable for the other person but also strengthens the bond between the speaker and the listener. One of the reasons questions are so powerful is that they show a genuine interest in the other person. In his famous book How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie emphasizes the importance of sincere curiosity in building relationships. By asking thoughtful questions, you demonstrate that you value the other person's thoughts, feelings, and experiences. This creates a sense of validation and can make people feel appreciated, which is a core emotional need. The Harvard Business Review also conducted studies that showed people who ask more questions, especially follow-up questions, are perceived as more likable. Follow-up questions show attentiveness and encourage deeper conversation, which in turn fosters stronger connections. When someone feels heard, they are more likely to open up and trust the person they are talking to, creating a more meaningful dialogue. In contrast, closed-ended questions or those that focus on negative emotions can stifle the natural flow of conversation and diminish its emotional impact. For instance, asking "How was your day?" may receive a simple "fine" or "not great," whereas asking "What was the highlight of your day?" invites the other person to share something positive, steering the conversation toward a more uplifting direction. Similarly, instead of asking "What went wrong today?" asking "What went well?" shifts the focus to positive outcomes and encourages the other person to reflect on their achievements, however small. Another important aspect of asking the right questions is their ability to transform a simple conversation into a space for learning and growth. Open-ended, reflective questions encourage deeper thinking and introspection. In a professional setting, for example, asking a colleague "What do you think could be improved?" can spark creative problem-solving. In a personal context, questions like "What did you learn from that experience?" or "How did that make you feel?" can foster greater emotional insight and connection. Socrates, the ancient Greek philosopher, was known for his method of asking probing questions to stimulate critical thinking and uncover deeper truths. His approach, often called the Socratic method, is based on the belief that asking the right questions leads to self-discovery and wisdom. In modern-day conversations, the same principle applies. Asking thoughtful, open-ended questions helps others gain clarity on their feelings and ideas, while also enhancing the quality of the relationship. Psychological studies have also highlighted the importance of emotionally intelligent questions, those that demonstrate empathy and understanding. For example, during moments of distress or difficulty, asking "How can I support you?" instead of giving unsolicited advice can be more effective in creating a sense of comfort and care. It allows the other person to feel in control of their emotional needs, while still fostering closeness. In terms of emotional contagion, positive questions create a reciprocal emotional exchange. When you ask questions that elicit positive emotions, you are more likely to receive positivity in return. This creates a feedback loop of warmth and engagement, making the conversation not only more memorable but also more rewarding for both parties. Recommendations: ask open-ended questions. Encourage deeper reflection by using questions that require more than a yes or no answer, such as "What are you most passionate about right now?" Focus on the positive. Frame questions in a way that highlights positive emotions or experiences, such as "What made you smile today?" Use follow-up questions. Show that you are actively listening by asking follow-up questions that dig deeper into what the other person has shared. Be empathetic and supportive. In emotionally charged situations, ask questions that express care and understanding, such as "What would be helpful for you right now?" Avoid leading or judgmental questions. Create a safe space for open dialogue by asking neutral, non-judgmental questions that allow the other person to express themselves freely. Using hand gestures effectively can significantly enhance communication and help build trust with your audience. Gestures add visual emphasis to your words, making your message clearer, more engaging, and easier to remember. Here's how you can use them to your advantage. 1. Be purposeful with your gestures. Avoid random or nervous movements. Each gesture should align with and emphasize what you are saying. For example, if you are speaking about growth, use upward movements to symbolize progress. Hand gestures should complement your message, not distract from it. 2. Open and visible hands. Using open hand gestures, where your palms face outward, signals honesty, transparency, and openness. This ancient nonverbal cue is rooted in trust building. When your hands are visible, it shows you have nothing to hide. People naturally feel more at ease and receptive when they see open hands. 3. Match gestures to the tone of your message. If you're discussing something positive or uplifting, use expansive gestures, broad hand movements that show energy and enthusiasm. For more serious or delicate topics, use smaller, more controlled gestures to indicate thoughtfulness and care. 4. Avoid overuse. While gestures can enhance communication, overusing them can be distracting. Use them sparingly and purposefully. Too many rapid or exaggerated movements can overwhelm the listener, detracting from the content of your message. 5. Use gestures to structure ideas. When explaining a concept with multiple parts, you can use hand gestures to visually structure the information. For example, when listing items, you can use your fingers or point in different directions for each part, giving the audience a clear visual separation of ideas. 6. Use gestures to reinforce key points. To highlight important ideas, use gestures that emphasize critical points. For instance, a firm, downward motion of the hand can convey certainty or emphasize a conclusion. This physical reinforcement can help make your message more memorable. Focus point 3. The power of asking the right questions to spark positive emotions in conversations. The way we interact with others shapes the quality of our relationships, and one of the most impactful tools in fostering connection is the art of asking the right questions. Questions are not merely a method of gathering information, they can stimulate emotions, deepen engagement, and build rapport. When used effectively, questions can make conversations more enjoyable, memorable, and meaningful by triggering positive emotional responses. Research in the field of neuroscience has revealed that asking questions that focus on positive experiences or future possibilities activates the brain's reward system. Specifically, it triggers the release of dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with feelings of pleasure and motivation. For example, asking someone, "What are you excited about?" prompts them to reflect on future goals or dreams, stimulating positive emotions. This question not only makes the conversation more enjoyable for the other person but also strengthens the bond between the speaker and the listener. One of the reasons questions are so powerful is that they show a genuine interest in the other person. In his famous book How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie emphasizes the importance of sincere curiosity in building relationships. By asking thoughtful questions, you demonstrate that you value the other person's thoughts, feelings, and experiences. This creates a sense of validation and can make people feel appreciated, which is a core emotional need. The Harvard Business Review also conducted studies that showed people who ask more questions, especially follow-up questions, are perceived as more likable. Follow-up questions show attentiveness and encourage deeper conversation, which in turn fosters stronger connections. When someone feels heard, they are more likely to open up and trust the person they are talking to, creating a more meaningful dialogue. In contrast, closed-ended questions or those that focus on negative emotions can stifle the natural flow of conversation and diminish its emotional impact. For instance, asking "How was your day?" may receive a simple "fine" or "not great," whereas asking "What was the highlight of your day?" invites the other person to share something positive, steering the conversation toward a more uplifting direction. Similarly, instead of asking "What went wrong today?" asking "What went well?" shifts the focus to positive outcomes and encourages the other person to reflect on their achievements, however small. Another important aspect of asking the right questions is their ability to transform a simple conversation into a space for learning and growth. Open-ended, reflective questions encourage deeper thinking and introspection. In a professional setting, for example, asking a colleague "What do you think could be improved?" can spark creative problem-solving. In a personal context, questions like "What did you learn from that experience?" or "How did that make you feel?" can foster greater emotional insight and connection. Socrates, the ancient Greek philosopher, was known for his method of asking probing questions to stimulate critical thinking and uncover deeper truths. His approach, often called the Socratic method, is based on the belief that asking the right questions leads to self-discovery and wisdom. In modern-day conversations, the same principle applies. Asking thoughtful, open-ended questions helps others gain clarity on their feelings and ideas, while also enhancing the quality of the relationship. Psychological studies have also highlighted the importance of emotionally intelligent questions, those that demonstrate empathy and understanding. For example, during moments of distress or difficulty, asking "How can I support you?" instead of giving unsolicited advice can be more effective in creating a sense of comfort and care. It allows the other person to feel in control of their emotional needs, while still fostering closeness. In terms of emotional contagion, positive questions create a reciprocal emotional exchange. When you ask questions that elicit positive emotions, you are more likely to receive positivity in return. This creates a feedback loop of warmth and engagement, making the conversation not only more memorable but also more rewarding for both parties. Recommendations: ask open-ended questions. Encourage deeper reflection by using questions that require more than a yes or no answer, such as "What are you most passionate about right now?" Focus on the positive. Frame questions in a way that highlights positive emotions or experiences, such as "What made you smile today?" Use follow-up questions. Show that you are actively listening by asking follow-up questions that dig deeper into what the other person has shared. Be empathetic and supportive. In emotionally charged situations, ask questions that express care and understanding, such as what would be helpful for you right now? Avoid leading or judgmental questions. Create a safe space for open dialogue by asking neutral, non-judgmental questions that allow the other person to express themselves freely. Using hand gestures effectively can significantly enhance communication and help build trust with your audience. Gestures add visual emphasis to your words, making your message clearer, more engaging, and easier to remember. Here's how you can use them to your advantage. 1. Be purposeful with your gestures. Avoid random or nervous movements. Each gesture should align with and emphasize what you are saying. For example, if you are speaking about growth, use upward movements to symbolize progress. Hand gestures should complement your message, not distract from it. 2. Open and visible hands. Using open hand gestures, where your palms face outward, signals honesty, transparency, and openness. This ancient nonverbal cue is rooted in trust building. When your hands are visible, it shows you have nothing to hide. People naturally feel more at ease and receptive when they see open hands. 3. Match gestures to the tone of your message. If you're discussing something positive or uplifting, use expansive gestures, broad hand movements that show energy and enthusiasm. For more serious or delicate topics, use smaller, more controlled gestures to indicate thoughtfulness and care. 4. Avoid overuse. While gestures can enhance communication, overusing them can be distracting. Use them sparingly and purposefully. Too many rapid or exaggerated movements can overwhelm the listener, detracting from the content of your message. 5. Use gestures to structure ideas. When explaining a concept with multiple parts, you can use hand gestures to visually structure the information. For example, when listing items, you can use your fingers or point in different directions for each part, giving the audience a clear visual separation of ideas. 6. Use gestures to reinforce key points. To highlight important ideas, use gestures that emphasize critical points. For instance, a firm, downward motion of the hand can convey certainty or emphasize a conclusion. This physical reinforcement can help make your message more memorable. 7. Maintain naturalness. Gestures should feel natural and not forced. Practice them while speaking to ensure they flow with your communication style. Forced gestures can seem rehearsed and disingenuous, potentially reducing trust instead of building it. 8. Adapt to cultural sensitivity. Be aware that the meaning of certain hand gestures varies across cultures. In some places, gestures that are positive in one country may be offensive in another. When communicating with diverse audiences, ensure your gestures are culturally appropriate to avoid misunderstandings. 9. Use mirroring for rapport building. Mirroring, or subtly copying another person's gestures, can build rapport and connection. When done naturally, it signals empathy and understanding. Be careful not to mimic too closely or deliberately, as it can come off as insincere or awkward. By using hand gestures intentionally, you can add depth to your communication, enhance your message, and build stronger, more trusting connections with your audience. Emotional contagion is the phenomenon where people unconsciously mimic the emotions of those around them, influencing the mood and feelings of others. This transfer of emotions happens quickly, often without us realizing it, through facial expressions, tone of voice, body language, and even the energy we project. Understanding the science behind emotional contagion can help you harness its power to positively influence others, improve social dynamics, and create a more engaging and supportive environment. 1. The role of mirror neurons in emotional contagion. The concept of emotional contagion is rooted in neuroscience, particularly in the role of mirror neurons. These neurons, discovered by neuroscientists in the 1990s, activate not only when we experience emotions ourselves but also when we observe others experiencing the same emotions. If someone around us is laughing, our mirror neurons may trigger feelings of happiness or amusement in us as well. Similarly, if someone is stressed or anxious, those emotions can spread quickly, influencing the emotional climate of the room. This process is automatic and deeply ingrained in human biology. It serves an evolutionary purpose, helping us empathize with others and fostering social cohesion. By mirroring others' emotions, we bond more easily, respond to group dynamics, and work together effectively. However, emotional contagion is not limited to negative emotions. It also applies to positive feelings like joy, excitement, and enthusiasm. 2. The ripple effect of emotions. Emotions ripple through social networks, affecting not just the person next to us but also individuals several degrees removed from us. A landmark study by Nicholas Christakis and James Fowler, published in the British Medical Journal, found that happiness spreads through social networks up to 3 degrees of separation. In other words, if you are happy, your friend is likely to feel happier, and their friend, and even the friend of their friend may experience an emotional lift. This ripple effect underscores the contagious nature of emotions. Conversely, negative emotions like stress or anger can also spread, leading to tension and conflict in social environments. The good news is that by becoming more aware of how emotions flow between people, we can take active steps to spread positivity rather than negativity. 3. How to influence emotions positively. To influence others' emotions in a positive way, it's essential to be intentional about the emotional energy you project. Here are some strategies based on the science of emotional contagion. Maintain positive body language. Smiling, maintaining open posture, and making eye contact can immediately shift the emotional tone of an interaction. A study published in the Journal of Nonverbal Behavior demonstrated that individuals who displayed positive body language had a higher success rate in fostering positive emotions in others. Use an uplifting tone of voice. Voice tone is one of the most potent carriers of emotion. Research by Yale University shows that people respond more strongly to vocal tone than to the actual words being spoken. A warm, upbeat tone signals enthusiasm and friendliness, encouraging others to adopt the same emotional energy. Express gratitude and appreciation. Showing genuine appreciation can shift the emotional tone in any interaction. By expressing gratitude, you not only spread positivity but also encourage others to feel valued. This in turn boosts their mood, making them more likely to pass on positive emotions to others. Be emotionally resilient. Negative emotions are inevitable, but how you manage them matters. Learning emotional resilience techniques like deep breathing, reframing negative thoughts, or practicing mindfulness can help you prevent negative emotions from spreading to others. This resilience allows you to stay calm and positive even in difficult situations, protecting those around you from catching any emotional turbulence. Encourage optimistic conversations. The questions and topics we choose in conversation can influence others' emotional states. Asking someone, "What went well today?" or "What are you looking forward to?" steers the conversation towards positive reflection. This can uplift both the speaker and the listener, reinforcing positive emotional contagion. 4. Emotional intelligence and awareness. Emotional contagion is closely linked to emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize, understand, and manage both your emotions and the emotions of others. Those who are emotionally intelligent are better able to read the emotional cues of those around them and adjust their behavior accordingly. This allows them to avoid absorbing negative emotions and instead spread calm, positivity, or joy. Daniel Goleman, the author of Emotional Intelligence, emphasizes that emotionally intelligent people act as emotional anchors. In stressful situations, rather than mirroring panic or frustration, they remain grounded and transmit a sense of stability and optimism. This emotional stability can positively influence others and help diffuse negative emotional contagion. 5. Emotional leadership, leading with positivity. In leadership settings, emotional contagion can be especially powerful. Leaders who exhibit positive emotions such as optimism, confidence, and enthusiasm can influence their team to adopt the same mindset. Research from the American Psychological Association shows that leaders who project positive emotions inspire greater motivation, creativity, and productivity in their teams. Conversely, leaders who exhibit anger, frustration, or negativity can create a toxic work environment where negative emotions quickly spread. Thus, leaders need to be mindful of their emotional impact, not only for the sake of productivity but for the overall emotional well-being of their teams. Recommendations: practice emotional awareness. Regularly check in with yourself to assess your emotional state before engaging with others. A positive mindset will naturally influence those around you. Project warmth and positivity. Use body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice to convey enthusiasm, openness, and optimism. Foster positive conversations. Steer conversations toward positive topics, like achievements, future plans, or moments of gratitude, to encourage a positive emotional exchange. Regulate stress and negativity. Use mindfulness techniques to manage your own negative emotions, preventing them from spreading to others. Act as an emotional anchor. In stressful or challenging situations, maintain calm and emotional resilience, helping to stabilize and uplift those around you. By understanding the science behind emotional contagion, we can better manage our own emotions and actively contribute to creating more positive and emotionally rewarding interactions. Effective verbal strategies can deeply engage others and stimulate positive feelings during conversations. When we communicate thoughtfully, choosing the right words and tone, we can create meaningful interactions that foster trust, positivity, and connection. Here are some key verbal strategies to achieve this. 1. Use open-ended questions. Open-ended questions encourage deeper dialogue and give the other person space to express themselves fully. Instead of simple yes or no questions, asking things like, "What excites you the most about this project?" or "How did you feel about that experience?" invites more thoughtful, reflective responses. These questions make the conversation more engaging and convey that you value the other person's input. Open-ended questions also stimulate the brain's reward centers. Neuroscientists have shown that when people are encouraged to share their thoughts and feelings, it activates the brain's dopamine pathways, which are linked to pleasure and motivation. This makes the conversation more enjoyable and fosters a positive emotional connection. 2. Show genuine interest and active listening. People feel more connected when they sense that others are genuinely interested in them. Verbal cues like "That's really interesting," "Tell me more," or "I can see why that would matter to you" show that you're actively listening and engaged in what the other person is saying. Active listening, which includes paraphrasing or asking follow-up questions based on what the speaker has said, signals empathy and makes the other person feel understood and appreciated. This practice aligns with the concept of validation, where you acknowledge the feelings and perspectives of the other person without necessarily agreeing or disagreeing. Statements like, "I can see why that would be challenging for you" validate their feelings and experiences, creating a stronger emotional bond. 3. Use positive framing. Framing statements in a positive way can dramatically change the emotional tone of a conversation. Instead of focusing on problems, focus on solutions or opportunities. For instance, rather than saying, "This is going to be difficult," try saying, "This is a great opportunity for growth and learning." Positive framing helps shift the focus away from obstacles and towards constructive action, inspiring optimism. Psychologists refer to this approach as reframing, a cognitive technique where a situation is viewed from a more positive perspective. This strategy not only stimulates positive emotions but also encourages others to adopt a more hopeful and motivated mindset. 4. Use empathetic language. Empathetic language shows that you understand and care about how the other person feels. Phrases like, "That must have been really tough for you," or "I can imagine how excited you must be" help to acknowledge and connect with the emotions behind their words. Empathy is key to building trust and rapport, as it shows the speaker that their emotions are recognized and respected. Research in emotional intelligence highlights that using empathetic language helps in creating deeper interpersonal connections. People are more likely to feel comfortable, valued, and willing to open up when empathy is woven into the conversation. 5. Incorporate humor and lightheartedness. Humor, when used appropriately, can create an instant sense of connection and lighten the mood. A well-timed joke or a lighthearted comment can make the conversation feel more relaxed and enjoyable. Laughter stimulates the release of endorphins, the body's natural feel-good chemicals, which help reduce stress and create a sense of bonding between people. Humor is also a powerful way to break tension or diffuse difficult situations. A lighthearted remark can prevent conversations from becoming too intense, helping to keep the interaction positive and engaging. 6. Express appreciation and gratitude. Verbalizing appreciation is one of the simplest but most effective ways to stimulate positive feelings. Saying things like, "I really appreciate your perspective," or "Thank you for sharing that with me," shows that you value the person and their contributions. Studies have shown that expressing gratitude can lead to higher levels of happiness and emotional connection, both for the person giving the appreciation and the person receiving it. Even small acknowledgments like, "I'm glad we had this conversation," can make the other person feel valued and appreciated, reinforcing the emotional connection and positivity of the exchange. 7. Use encouraging language. Encouragement can lift others' spirits and motivate them. Phrases such as, "I believe in your abilities," or "I know you can handle this," provide emotional support and help the other person feel more confident and capable. Encouragement creates a nurturing atmosphere where people feel empowered rather than judged, making the conversation more uplifting. Encouraging language taps into the concept of self-efficacy, a psychological principle where people believe in their own ability to succeed. When you use words that instill confidence, you help others tap into their potential, which leads to a more positive, empowered interaction. 8. Match the tone and energy of the conversation. Matching the emotional tone and energy of the person you're talking to can help build rapport and make the interaction feel more harmonious. If someone is speaking passionately about a subject, respond with enthusiasm to reflect that energy. If they are sharing something more personal or emotional, adopt a softer, more compassionate tone. In communication psychology, this is referred to as mirroring, where you subtly match the other person's tone, pace, and energy. This technique creates a sense of alignment and understanding, which fosters connection and enhances the overall emotional quality of the conversation. 9. Give space for reflection. Sometimes, one of the most effective verbal strategies is knowing when not to speak. Pausing to give space for reflection can deepen the conversation and allow the other person to think more deeply about what has been said. Phrases like, "I'd love to hear your thoughts on that," or simply allowing a moment of silence after a key point, can encourage the other person to open up further. This aligns with the psychological principle of active silence, where pauses in conversation give the listener time to process and reflect, often leading to more meaningful and thoughtful responses. Recommendations. Ask open-ended, positive questions. Focus on questions that invite thoughtful, optimistic responses. Express empathy and understanding. Use verbal cues to show you care about the other person's feelings. Incorporate humor when appropriate. Use humor to lighten the mood and make conversations enjoyable. Use encouraging, uplifting language. Reinforce the other person's confidence and abilities. Express gratitude. Acknowledge contributions to create a sense of value and appreciation. By using these verbal strategies, you can create engaging, positive, and meaningful conversations that leave others feeling valued and emotionally connected. Asking the right questions can transform ordinary interactions into meaningful and memorable exchanges. The quality of our conversations often depends on the questions we ask, and thoughtful questions can lead to deeper connections, engagement, and personal growth. Here are some practical tips for making interactions more meaningful through questioning. 1. Ask open-ended questions. Open-ended questions encourage more detailed and thoughtful responses rather than simple yes or no answers. These types of questions allow the conversation to flow naturally and give the other person room to express themselves fully. For example, instead of asking, "Did you enjoy the event?" ask, "What was your favorite part of the event?" Instead of, "Are you happy with your job?" try, "What do you enjoy most about your job?" Open-ended questions lead to richer discussions because they invite the other person to reflect and share more of their experiences, thoughts, and feelings. 2. Ask what and how questions. Questions that start with what and how tend to be more engaging because they prompt explanation, reflection, and insight. They focus on understanding rather than judgment. For example, what inspired you to take on this project? How do you see this situation unfolding in the future? These questions encourage the other person to think deeply about their motivations, decisions, and perceptions, making the conversation more insightful and meaningful. 3. Avoid leading or judgmental questions. Leading or judgmental questions can make people feel defensive or uncomfortable. For instance, asking, "Don't you think that was a bad idea?" limits the other person's response and can put them on the spot. Instead, ask neutrally, "How did you feel about that decision? What was your thought process behind that choice?" Non-judgmental questions create a safe space for sharing, allowing the other person to open up without feeling like they need to defend their actions or opinions. 4. Follow up with clarifying questions. Show genuine interest by asking follow-up questions that dive deeper into what the other person has shared. This demonstrates active listening and keeps the conversation flowing. For example, you mentioned that the project was challenging. What were some of the biggest hurdles you faced? It sounds like that experience really impacted you. How did it change your perspective? Follow-up questions help uncover more layers of the story, making the interaction more engaging and allowing for deeper understanding. 5. Ask questions that encourage positive reflection. Encouraging people to reflect on positive aspects of their lives can uplift the mood and make the interaction more memorable. Questions that prompt someone to focus on their achievements, joys, or future aspirations create a positive emotional environment. For example, what's something you've accomplished recently that you're really proud of? What are you most excited about in the coming months? These questions stimulate feelings of gratitude and happiness, which can make the conversation feel more rewarding and leave a lasting impression. 6. Ask about passions and interests. People are often most animated and engaged when talking about things they are passionate about. Asking about their interests not only makes the conversation more dynamic but also shows that you care about what matters to them. For example, what hobby or activity do you love spending time on? What's something you're really passionate about right now? By tapping into someone's passions, you make the conversation more enjoyable and meaningful for both parties. 7. Ask for personal insights and experiences. Encouraging someone to share personal insights or experiences makes the interaction more intimate and meaningful. When you ask people to reflect on their life, their values, or lessons they've learned, you tap into deeper, more thoughtful areas of conversation. For example, what's a life lesson you've learned that has shaped who you are today? How have your experiences influenced the way you approach challenges? Personal insight questions invite introspection, leading to conversations that feel more impactful and memorable. 8. Use thought-provoking and reflective questions. Thought-provoking questions stimulate deeper thinking and can lead to richer, more reflective discussions. These questions challenge people to consider their views, values, or goals in new ways. For example, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be? What would you do if you weren't afraid of failure? By prompting reflection on bigger life questions, you create space for a more meaningful exchange. 9. ask about future aspirations. Questions about future aspirations or goals can create a sense of excitement and optimism. People often enjoy sharing their dreams and ambitions, and these conversations can lead to a sense of inspiration. For example, what's a goal you're working toward right now? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Focusing on the future encourages forward thinking and leaves both parties feeling motivated and inspired. 10. Be mindful of timing and tone. The timing and tone of your questions matter as much as the content. Ask questions at appropriate moments, when the other person is open and ready to engage, and use a tone that is friendly and curious, not interrogative or demanding. A gentle and thoughtful tone invites openness, while an abrupt or overly intense tone can make people feel uncomfortable or defensive. Recommendations. Ask open-ended, reflective questions, invite deeper, more thoughtful responses by asking what and how questions. Focus on positive reflection, encourage people to reflect on their achievements, interests, and future goals to stimulate positive emotions. Show genuine curiosity, follow up with clarifying questions to demonstrate that you're truly interested in what the other person is saying. Create a safe space, avoid judgmental or leading questions that could make the person feel defensive. Ask about personal insights and experiences, encourage deeper sharing by asking about lessons learned and how past experiences have shaped them. By asking the right questions, you can create conversations that are not only engaging but also memorable, fostering stronger connections and more meaningful interactions. As we conclude this audiobook, we've explored how to make our interactions more impactful and positive through effective communication strategies. Let's recap the key takeaways. Emotional contagion. We learned how emotions can be contagious, influencing those around us through mirror neurons and emotional networks. By understanding and managing the emotional energy we project, we can foster a more positive and supportive environment. Verbal strategies. We discovered the importance of asking open-ended questions, showing genuine interest, and using positive framing and empathetic language. These strategies not only deepen connections but also create engaging and uplifting conversations. Hand gestures. Effective use of hand gestures was highlighted as a powerful tool to enhance communication. Gestures add emphasis, build trust, and help convey our message more clearly. By applying these principles, you can make your interactions more meaningful and memorable, encouraging deeper connections and positive exchanges. Here are some recommendations to implement in your daily conversations. Use open-ended and reflective questions to invite more detailed and thoughtful responses. Show genuine interest through active listening and empathetic language. Incorporate positive framing and encouragement to foster a constructive and supportive atmosphere. Utilize hand gestures purposefully to reinforce your message and build trust. Thank you for joining us on this journey to enhance your communication skills. Your support means a lot to us. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please give it a like and consider subscribing to the Media Dean YouTube channel. Remember, listening is key to improving your English language skills. The more you listen, the better you speak. Keep listening and engaging with our content to continue growing your language abilities and making your interactions even more impactful. We look forward to having you with us in future sessions.